Then we have a very long sentence. It's one of the longest sentences in Savitri. And it's very important for us. This sentence is most of it an image. He starts as when the mantra enters yoga's ear. He's going to describe something, the effect that the mantra has. And then at the very end of the sentence, right down on line 238, he tells us an equal greatness in her life was born. It's as if she has heard a mantra and the full meaning of it has entered her consciousness. So she feels completely changed and transmuted by this message, this seed. So let's read this step by step. Aurobindo is telling us the 4 stages, what happens when we hear the mantra. As when the mantra sinks in yoga's ear, its message enters, stirring the blind brain, and keeps in the dim, ignorant cells its sound. The hearer understands a form of words, and musing on the index thought it holds, he strives to read it with the laboring mind, but finds bright hints, not the embodied truth. Then, falling silent in himself to know, he meets the deeper listening of his soul. The word repeats itself in rhythmic strains. Thought, vision, feeling, sense, the body's self are seized unutterably, and he endures an ecstasy and an immortal change. He feels a wideness and becomes a power. All knowledge rushes on him like a sea. Transmuted by the white spiritual ray, he walks in naked heavens of joy and calm, sees the God face, and hears transcendent speech. An equal greatness in her life was sown. So, of course, nowadays we read mantras, but the traditional way of transmitting a mantra was that the guru would speak it to you in your ear. No? So when the mantra sinks in the ear, what happens first is the sound enters. The sound enters the ear and it stirs the brain. The brain just hears the sound. It doesn't understand the message. No? And it keeps in the dim, ignorant cells, in the brain cells, the sound of the mantra gets imprinted. That's the first stage. So traditionally we are told that when we are learning a mantra, the sound is very, very important. It's the rhythm and the sound of the words, and getting that right is the first stage. No? So this is what we do here. The hearer understands a form of words, and we try to understand it. We muse, we concentrate on the thought that is held there in the words, a thought which he says is an index. It's pointing to something. It's pointing to something behind the words or beyond the words. No? So we concentrate on the words and we try to grasp the thought that is held there in the words. And we strive to understand it. He strives to read it with our laboring minds. That's what we do. Huh? And what he finds is just bright hints of the meaning. There's some indications. We get a feeling that, oh yes, I understand that sentence. But we haven't received the embodied truth, the truth of which the mantra is the sound body. But it's the second step. It's also important. All these 4 steps were important in the tradition. Then he has to silence his mind. He has to silence the laboring mind. He has to fall silent in himself and concentrate on that sound which is there in his brain. And then he comes into contact with the deeper listening of the soul, which is not the listening of the physical ears or the brain, and it's not the listening of the mind, it's the listening of the soul. The soul has to hear the mantra. So the mantra starts repeating itself in its rhythm, its correct rhythm. It goes on and on repeating itself. And with the repetition of the mantra silently within him, then everything gets seized with that vibration. Thought, vision, feeling, sense, the whole body begins to vibrate, seized unutterably. And he endures, he experiences. It may be difficult to bear that experience because it is so intense, an ecstasy and an immortal change. There's a realization, a complete transformation of some kind. So then he gets the full effect of the mantra. He feels the wideness. He actually becomes a power. And all knowledge rushes in like a sea breaking through a dam or a dike. He becomes transmuted, changed in form, transformed by that white spiritual ray. And his whole being and nature is changed. He walks in naked heavens of joy and calm. Those heavens are not covered by anything anymore. He can walk in them, experience them intensely, and he can see the face of the divine, and he can hear the speech, the voice that comes from the transcendent. So that's an enormous change. This is the real purpose of the mantra. When the Guru gives you the mantra, it's meant to bring about a realization, a complete change in your being. So just as if Asvapati had spoken to her a mantra and it had sunk into her brain, and first she tried to understand it, and then she opened up to the deeper listening of her soul, and she finds everything is changed. This is what happens to Savitri. An equal greatness in her life was sown. He takes us back to the image of the seed. This word was the seed has been sown in her being, and this is the effect that it's had.